This is County Executive Warren Evans, and this is Inside Wayne County.
Hello and welcome to Inside Wayne County. I'm your host, Lloyd Jackson, and with this show we want to give you important information and also keep you informed about what's going on inside Wayne County government. Today we go inside the department formerly called EDGE, but it's now called the Wayne County Economic Development Corporation. This new approach will improve coordination between agencies and increase the county's ability to leverage existing economic development strategies. And joining me to talk about this new approach is the Interim Director of the Wayne County Economic Development Corporation, or EDC, Khalil Rahal. Khalil, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I always like to start off the show by kind of introducing the residents of Wayne County to the guest. Okay. So let's talk about Khalil Rahal and first where you lived and where you grew up and your education.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Dearborn, right here in Wayne County. I went to school, Fordson High School in Dearborn. I went to Henry Ford Community College in Dearborn. And then I transferred over to Grand Valley State University. I got my associate's degree there in political science, and from there I interned in Washington, D.C. for Congressman Dingell.
Wow.
And applied to law school, and got into a couple places, but I chose to come back to Detroit, and I went to U of D Law School right here downtown Detroit. I lived downtown. I loved it down here. At the time, it was a very exciting time, and it was just cool to be in the city.
Yeah. Now, you said you worked for Congressman Dingell. How was that?
Oh, I interned for Congressman Dingell, and I did it in Washington, D.C., which was one of the best experiences of my life. I got to live like 2 blocks away from the United States Supreme Court. So in my off time, I would go watch the arguments, and it really, you know, watching one of the legends at work and then being able to live in that area and be up around that atmosphere, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I wanted to go to law school. And so that's what kind of spurred you to go into the law part of it? Yeah, as interns, you know, you get access to the Library of Congress. Yeah. And it put me in the right mindset to study for the LSTAT and, you know, try to get a better score to get into a better school. And U of D is an excellent private school. I got a great Jesuit education there, and I couldn't have made a better decision.
Now, I also understand that you worked in the prosecutor's office here in Wayne County.
Yeah, so as I lived downtown and I walked to the law school, the one thing that was very apparent is, you know, in law school you got to choose whether you want to do criminal law, civil law, constitutional law. The thing that helped me make my choice is U of D is really close to the prosecutor's office. I did an internship there. I started specializing in their domestic violence unit. Okay. And I found a passion for it. First, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office is an amazing breeding ground for lawyers. You get an amazing amount of experience, just even in law school, let alone after law school. And they were happy enough to hire me. And as I took that on, my career went from, you know, developing my skills in domestic violence specialty, and then moving on to doing general trials, and then I, you know, finally made my way into doing sexual assault crimes. Wow. And so I specialize in sexual assault crimes. I have done cases that hit the local, national, international media. The last case I prosecuted Evan Reed. I prosecuted Mohammed Mazroor, who was an imam in the area. I prosecuted Dion Nunley, who was a police officer. And I you know, a fair amount of ministers and people in positions of authority who abused that authority and preyed on their victims. And I always found that I had a knack for doing trials. And
before you came over to the Wayne County Executive's office, were you ever working on the rape kits that the current prosecutor, Kim Worthy, has been working on?
Absolutely. So in the sexual assault unit, you know, a lot of cases involve rape kits, which means you have to get, you know, you have to become a scientist really fast to be able to explain it to people. But you know, you have excellent people at the state who can explain it to you so that you can put them on the stand and go through their expertise and just know what the right questions to ask, but then know it well enough so that, you know, when you're giving your closing arguments, you have to be able to explain it like you're a scientist. Right. So that was definitely a part of it.
How did you come over to the Wayne County Executive's office?
The Wayne County Executive had, you know, seen some of my cases that were getting a fair amount of attention. I was being pretty successful, and the one thing that I had noticed is, you know, at the prosecutor's office, there needs to be more resources for us to be able to do our work. And I decided to see if I can pursue other avenues to help with that. I had done, I thought, a fair job of trying to help out sexual assault victims in achieving justice, and I just know that if the resources come to that office, more justice can be sought. And I thought, well, one way to tackle this problem is to do it from the county aspect of things. So that's how I came over.
And now you're involved with the economic development in the county, and how did that transition happen?
Now, I get this question a lot, and I came over as the ombudsman, and as the ombudsman, the FOIA coordinator, and if there are special issues that citizens have or even personnel has, my job is to look at those issues and help fix them. I think the skill that I have is, I have come across, I don't know the exact number, but I would say around 1,000 criminal cases. The one thing that I am really good at is spotting issues. And at the time, in the previous administration and in the past, EDGE had a lot of issues. And so I think in Mr. Evans' infinite wisdom, he decided to just put me down in economic development just to figure out what those previous issues are so that we can help avoid them in the future. And you know, I brought some of those issues to light. I think we did a good job of trying to address those issues. And so when it came to, well, what are we going to do with economic development? What are ways that we can help the budget? What are the ways we can be more efficient? In explaining all those issues, the CEO decided to suggest that I become the interim director at the time.
Now, you talked about EDGE. Let's let the residents know what EDGE was.
Sure. And
it's now gone now, but it's an acronym for something.
EDGE stood for the Economic Development Growth Engine. It is an unmandated department of the charter, and it handled economic development for the county. So the purpose of EDGE is to handle things from a business aspect as well as a community development aspect to help increase the tax base, to help revitalize neighborhoods, to help out local businesses. And that's what it was intended purpose was.
And so it has been abolished now, and so now we have a new department. Tell me about that department now.
The new department is the Economic Development the Economic Development Corporation. Within EDGE, we had what we called component units. There was about 3 or 4 boards that had civilians that served on those boards, and they each handled different tools to help spur the economy along. And each board, as they administered those tools, they received revenue in the forms of administrative fees.
Okay.
And the one thing about EDGE is it was running on a deficit. It had a $2.4 million accumulative deficit. It also had a structural deficit of $600,000 a year, and that was even after making some cuts to some personnel. The budget for EDGE, they received $1.2 million on an annual basis. So what we did was we said, we're going to keep the function of economic development, but we're going to run it through one of these component units that has a little bit of revenue in it. And this is just an idea of doing less with more. We have good people working in economic development who are doing twice the amount of work that they used to. And if they, get the work accomplished, the money that was being allocated to EDGE, the $1.2 million, and the structural deficit on top of that, the $600,000, all that is relieved from the general fund now. And the money that's being used from those component units is what's being used to fund the department, the staffing, and all the like.
So you're saving money, but you're also getting some things done. And that's something that the CEO had talked about when he first came in. He says, you have this department, but what has really been completed from A to Z?
That's right. Yeah, and there were a lot of questions about EDGE. What I can tell you is that since we have sort of made this transition, the first thing we did was we just did a study to figure out what the problem is. And one of the things that we discovered as a problem is space. Wayne County is one of the largest counties in the country, but it only has less than 2 million people in it.
Yes.
You have to remember, Lloyd, back in the day, they had 2 million people in the city of Detroit. There is a lot of space in the county, and space is a problem because it makes it difficult for people to get city services out to the edges, right? It becomes very wasteful. But more importantly, people crave accountability. And so here's what I mean by that.
Okay.
I was a former Wayne County prosecutor. Whenever there's a home invasion and there aren't witnesses around, it makes it very difficult to track down the criminals. When home invasions happen, insurance goes up, police expense goes up, prosecutors' expense goes up, judges, sheriffs, and so on and so forth.
Like a domino effect.
It's a domino effect, and if you look at the budget, you'll find that the criminal justice system is a huge chunk of that budget. People crave accountability. We need more people around, more witnesses to speak up so that we can catch those criminals. And what you'll do is if you fill up the space, you will lower those costs, and then obviously you'll increase your revenue, right, from your tax base.
Right.
We have attacked this problem, and we're starting at home first. So let me give you a brief example.
Okay.
The Guardian building, it had a decent vacancy rate, but I don't like to use that number because the vacancy rate isn't exactly accurate, because even if a floor at the Guardian building is occupied, there are cubicles and offices that are empty. So it's not a fair assessment. What we did internally was we rearranged where county employees sit. So now there are county employees that are located on different floors. We did our best to move those people around without using money from the general fund, and we put people in less convenient spaces. But it's a part of this shared sacrifice so that we make continuing floors available to lease out.
Had this not happened in the past? I mean, the utilization,
right.
of the building?
I don't think it was done to the best that it could be. And the reason why I know it wasn't is, in us clearing out the space that we have, we were able to sign a deal with the Detroit Land Bank, who is taking up 2 floors in the Guardian building at a reduced rate for them and increased revenue for us. In the last 3 or 4 months, I don't know, the exact amount of time, we've signed about 4 deals in the Guardian building, totaling about over $500,000 in revenue. In addition to that, August 1st, we have a new management company that's about to start, and that's going to lower our cost by around $190,000. So all that money that is being generated from the Guardian building is going to the general fund. This is just a matter of people taking the time, working really hard, moving pieces around the puzzle, right, to put people in different seating situations. And then the county people, the staff at the county did a great job of going out and getting somebody to come into that building. And I just want to say why this deal is smart. The Wayne County Land Bank is funded by taxpayers.
Yes.
Well, they were paying rent to a private company, and now their rent is going to a public building. So it's as if the taxpayers' money is going to be used on a building that they already have to pay for, and they're getting it at a discount on the rent. We're helping them out on furniture, we're helping them out on parking, and now we have 90 more people coming into the building as a result of this one deal. And let me tell you what that does. It fills up the space.
The Economic Development Corporation now, how do you see it working going forward?
Going forward, the reason why we moved towards this new model was because what we found with Edge was there was a lot of redundancies in what they were doing. And the beautiful thing about the EDC is you have all these boards and they all provide different tools. The Brownfield Redevelopment Authority helps out with environmental stuff. There's grants from the EPA and MEDQ, and those grants goes towards hazardous waste so that we can clean those environmental problems up, get that land to be developed, get that back on the tax rolls. We have a community development entity board where we apply for new market tax credits. And when we hand out those tax credits, people get a loan at a much more reduced rate at a low to moderate income area, so it helps revitalize that area. We have we have other boards that we have the Wayne County Land Bank. And the purpose of having all of these boards being run by the Economic Development Corporation and having similar staff on each one is now the right hand knows what the left hand is doing.
Yes.
If I know that there is an area that is being developed, well then I know that it's smart to sort of dedicate some more of those resources in that area. So if the land bank is developing homes in a particular area, I know that maybe we ought to look for a corridor project for the new market tax credit to go to that area.
Now, go ahead. Now the MEDC will be working along with the EDC as well. You guys will be kind of working in conjunction with each other. How does that work?
You know, the nice thing is, if I've got questions, I've been calling the MEDC, and they have been nothing but absolutely helpful.
Okay.
One of the other problems that we've discovered when it comes to economic development is there really is no coordination. And I think that because in the first time in a long time you've got the big four that all seem to be on the same page, and that makes it very easy for somebody like me, because now I can, if I have an issue, call up the MEDC, I can call up the DEGC, I can call up our regional partners and say, hey, forget about who takes the credit. Can we all get on the same page for development? And the response has been excellent.
I mean, I would think if you're working together with your partners, no matter who gets the project, it's in the southeastern Michigan region, it helps the region.
Exactly, exactly. And I think people have understood that, you know, if something is good, is something happening that's good in Detroit, that is good for Wayne County, that is good for Oakland County and Washtenaw County and Macomb County and so on and so forth, and vice versa.
Just in the past 6 months though, Khalil, since the new administration has come in, there's been a lot of different projects going on that have been very positive. Kind of talk about some of the things that are going on.
Well, you know, we had a big deal with the Pauls Group out in the land near the airport. It's a, you know, $3 to $4 million deal depending on when it ends up happening. It's about 15, 16 parcels of land where we have option agreements. In the past, whenever Edge got into contracts, you know, there wasn't ways to protect the county. And here's what I mean by that. You know, you sell a piece of land. If it doesn't get developed, then it just takes up space and it never gets developed, sits in the tax rolls. We have to wait years to fight through foreclosures and things like that. We just sold, you know, all that land out there near the airport with option agreements, and we did it to an excellent company. The Pauls Group has a history of developing around airports. So, and they, on top of the history of development, they've been very successful.
Now, is this area around Pinnacle?
It is near the Pinnacle area, yes. It is not exactly where the old racehorse track is or anything like that. Or, you know, I know people have a lot of questions about Aerotropolis and Vanageport and things like that. But what I will say is, we did our due diligence. You know, we had people from here, you know, people from Huron Township who flew out to Colorado, who looked at the development. I know that we've had conversations with economic development people from the Colorado airport. You know, can you tell us how you feel about these guys? And everybody came back with the same conclusion. They love the Pauls Group. They're going to be great for development. And this is a situation where we have underdeveloped land. We have, you know, option agreements where if the land doesn't get developed, we don't get the, you know, they don't get to just sit on the rest of the pieces of land. And when that land does get developed, you're going to see us filling up the space.
Spirit Airlines as well, and putting a big investment out there at the airport.
Absolutely. You know, and let me just say this: that is an excellent airport. It is run really well. There is, and I don't know the exact number, but I believe it's about 650 flights that come out of there on a daily basis. And to show you how good that they're doing, Spirit Airlines had their choice of a lot of different places to put in a new hangar, and they decided to stay at that airport. What that is about a $31 million investment, and it retains about 300, and I can't remember how many jobs, but more importantly, it creates 84 jobs on top of that. So not only did we not lose the jobs, but we created more jobs, more investments, and the whole idea is that the more activity at the airport, the more flights out of the airport. The more flights out of the airport, the more you know, the more again we fill up the space.
Before we go, I got to ask you about the Guardian building. We talked a little bit about it, but you know, everybody's talking about, you know, is the county going to sell the county seat, the Guardian building? Is it going? Is it for sale?
Well, you know, and I get this question a lot, and what I would say is we are actively pursuing a broker. Look, there isn't anything that's not for sale. With the fiscal crisis that we're in, we are just looking at all of our options on the table. The Guardian building is obviously one of the most beautiful buildings in the world, and as I just said, we're filling it up. So we know that it's very attractive right now. So it is absolutely for sale, and we are absolutely pursuing a broker. The numbers have to make sense, and there's a lot that goes into that. But like I said, every option is on the table.
Khalil, thank you so much for being here on Inside Wayne County. It seems that it's out with the Edge and with the Economic Development Corporation. Really appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
Stay tuned for upcoming shows as we take you inside Wayne County departments and introduce you to the people in charge and the many services they provide. It's all with the goal of keeping you up to date with everything going on inside Wayne County. I'm Lloyd Jackson. See you next time.